Welcome into the ArtGibbs Sports Business Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And today we've got a very special guest. You know, when you're at a bar or you're in your house or you're watching a sporting event or reading a news article on a sporting event, you might say to yourself, I wish I could invest in that player. Not the team, not obviously own a team, not own a stadium, but could I buy that player's performance? Could I buy into that player just like a stock? And I feel like many of us have found ourselves doing that. I know I have. You know, you're sitting around talking and you say, well, I wonder if I could, maybe I bet that player is going to have a great future. And maybe I could invest in them. Maybe I could buy a share of that player and follow their career or their season and see how they do. Well, our guest today has founded a company that does just that. Prediction Strike, predictionstrike.com. There's an app on the Apple Store, and it is just that. It's a market for players. You can buy shares in LeBron James, Zion Williamson, et cetera, trade them with your friends. So we talk all about that. How does it work? What drives the price of the shares up or down? Who are you actually trading with? Who holds the stock? Who holds the cash? Some of that kind of stuff. How many shares are there of an athlete? So we dive into all of that today with our guest, Deven Hurt, who is the co-founder of Prediction Strike. So I'll send you over there now. Thank you. All right. So we're joined here by Devin Hurt, who's the founder and CEO of Prediction Strike, which we'll get into in more detail shortly. But I know a little bit about your history. You're a Harvard graduate. I know you've kind of been an entrepreneur throughout your life, starting a couple of things while you were in school. And, so maybe just talk a little bit about that. What's kind of your story on that front and what kind of led you into this entrepreneurial endeavor?
Definitely. I think the story with entrepreneurship does start in college. As you mentioned, I went to Harvard, so I was there from 2014 to 2018. And I don't think I went there to I know I didn't go there saying I was going to start my own business. It didn't start like that. It was kind of, I thought I was going to med school, actually. So very much, maybe own my own practice, but nothing, not a true kind of corporate business. And I just started working on side projects that seemed fun to me. So the first one was actually in the medical space. It was one of those computer science final project where we just had to make something. And I was like, well, maybe this could be a startup. It was a program in medical records. Then the next thing was also in the med space, things dealing with wellness visits and just making sure people got better access to healthcare. And then there was, I think, something else we did. Me and Brad, myself, there were some other people, but Brad's been with me through all of them, including Prediction Strike. And that's just something we actually just stumbled into, which has been fun. And that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you went to Harvard. What did you go right into the Prediction Strike, or was there a time in between, or what was that like?
Kind of. We very much, like I said, stumbled into Prediction Strike. Brad and I were just talking. So at this point, I had already accepted a job offer. I said I was going to work for Nike. This is about May 2018. So right before I graduate, I'm going to Nike. And
what did you study in school? Like, what were you?
I studied bioengineering.
Okay.
So thought I was going to med school. With bioengineering, I ended up doing a lot of computer science courses, which is how what I ended up doing at Nike was cybersecurity.
Okay.
So Brad and I was going to Nike in about 2 months. Brad was already working. He was working in venture banking, which is lending money to startups. We're just having a conversation. We're just talking about sports. It's NBA playoffs at this time, the real stock market. And Brad says, look, I lost money and whatever. I just wish I could put my money in LeBron. We're like, that'd be cool. What would that look like? And so I had some time. So it was kind of like, I whipped up a quick prototype, got our friends to try it. It just snowballed from there. And so after graduating, I started Prediction Strike. Wasn't full-time yet. I was working at Nike, eventually went full-time, and now here we are.
That's awesome. So what are some of the basics of Prediction Strike? Like, how does it work? And, you say you kind of whipped it up. What's it built on? What is it?
Yeah. So the first idea was, all right, you want to put your money in LeBron. And I knew what he meant by that was he wanted like a stock, right? So it's like, what? And this, and it became a weird exercise in pulling out, what does the stock market feel like? If you were building a stock market from the ground up, how would you make it work? And especially work in such a fashion that anyone could get it. Because the real stock market, of course, is particularly complicated. There's a lot of high level thinking and academics that goes into it, right? So what we settled on was share prices need to move based on two factors. One was actual game performance. So we said each game is kind of like an earnings report. The simplified version of an earnings report is if a company beats their earnings, their share price goes up. If they miss their earnings, their share price goes down. So we said, look, if you play better than expected, you beat your earnings, your share price has to go up. You have to be rewarded for that. And the other is supply and demand, which is how the real stock market functions. But are users buying or selling shares of this athlete? Is this someone that people care about?
Oh yeah.
And so that's what we built. And so,
so how do you, what is say the earnings report? Like what's the base that you would use to say, this is expected, this is above expected, this is below expected?
We use fantasy projections. So we have a third-party data provider who gives all of those to us. So we don't kind of have a hand in that, but that's what we use.
Okay. And then so you have say LeBron, and that's like a company, right, that you're investing in.
Yep.
Is there kind of like a number of shares or like a market cap of LeBron, or how do you, when you're offering LeBron, how do you offer that? Do you say, okay, we're starting with 100 shares at $1 and we're going to kind of see how the demand, like what the market, demand for this is, and then adjust accordingly? Or where do you start in that process? And then, how does the investor know what percentage of LeBron they're buying, or is it not that way?
Yeah. So I guess the first and most maybe easiest question to answer there is, how does the share price start? And so for that, we look at each athlete and we say, okay, how are you actually projected to do this year? So imagine there's some fictional universe where the best projected player is projected 10,000 fantasy points. And so now we look at some rookie who's going to be, and we just say, for argument's sake, let's standardize that to $10. So now we might look at some rookie and say, you're only projected 1,000 fantasy points, you'll be $1. Or you're projected 2,000, you'll be $2. And kind of course, the granularity all throughout that. So that's how the share price starts. And then from there, IPO is always a big day. Ton of people buying shares, ton of people getting ready. You're going to see a lot of share price movement there. And so what people are really buying into is, one, who is going to be one of the popular athletes that year? And two, just, is that athlete going to consistently perform well in games? You look at some of the best examples, like LaMelo Ball went up, I think, from $5 to like $25 last year. Some just craziness, just because every time he would step on the court, he was just crushing it, especially rookie, very low expectations. And he was a popular guy, became just a household sports name. So you're going to see a lot of that. And so that's what users are buying into.
Okay. And so when you issue these, like this LaMelo or LeBron, they buy it in that IPO, and that's when Precision Strike gets the money. And then everything after that is the market participants trading with each other, or how does that work?
So we act as a market maker as well.
Okay.
So we'll kind of say, look, you want to sell, you can sell to us. We'll, very much the middleman. We'll now focus on selling that share to someone else. The big reason we did that is we started with just our friends. It was like 12 guys. You can't have a liquid market with that small number of people. So we're constantly watching the market liquidity. Eventually we'll transition to say, look, this market's liquid enough. Users, you're just buying and selling with each other, and we just facilitate.
That's great. Yeah. That's cool. And so what, who are your competitors, or what area are you in? Are you in like sports betting, I guess? Is that what kind of category you'd fall into?
We don't consider it betting. We look at it as, we sit on kind of the corner of a true investment and a collectible. So It's this idea that you are taking some specialized knowledge you have to say something is going to be worth more in the future and using that. And then of course, on the collectible idea, it's just cool, right? You just want to have shares of your favorite athletes. Like, who's your favorite athlete?
Probably Lance Armstrong.
Okay. Yeah. So, right. Imagine you had a piece of Lance Armstrong's career. And something else that we're piloting that I think is going to make you even more excited about that. Next month with the UFC launch, you're going to be able to actually interact with these athletes. So imagine Lance Armstrong had quarterly shareholder meetings, and because you had shares, you could actually go. Or you get to imagine you had shares in someone on the Sixers. And so now you get to hear maybe some, of course, the PR safe version, but something about what's going on with this Ben Simmons drama. Like that is the world that we're pushing towards. And that's going to be the next phase of it.
That's cool. Yeah. So maybe you're more in like an art and collectibles, trading of art and collectibles versus like total sort of security or something like that.
Exactly. Yep.
And so you would limit from the investment perspective, you would limit the number of like LeBron shares. Like, is it just IPO? That's it. Or do you issue more based on demand, or
we issue more based on demand?
Okay.
We're looking at hard capping them actually soon. And we're trying to figure out kind of what that looks like. And it's a little tricky to figure out what is kind of the best thing for the users. If you think about stocks, right, the limit is in the millions, and there's just so much liquidity that especially you as an individual, don't even know there's a limit. It doesn't mean anything to you. Whereas if you're an investment bank, it might. So we're trying to figure out what is best for that user experience. And that's what we're doing. So a lot of just talking to users, seeing what makes sense. We're still young enough that still figuring it out.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's really cool. So where do you fit in like with the NFTs and that kind of stuff? Are you familiar with any of that? I mean, I'm really not that familiar with that, but that's kind of what it sounds like, that there's in the crypto space and kind of using that hard cap kind of setup, you can buy a moment or something like that. Is that similar, or do you compete with that, or how does that fit?
I think the psychology is very similar. You're buying part of this adventure, of this journey. And with NFTs, that's a very defined moment, or with some of them, that's a very defined moment in time. Maybe it's this dunk, right? That's what Top Shot does. Or it might be just, I don't know, this cool picture of a jump shot, right? That's something that you can buy into. But at the end of the day, it's a player you like. It's this idea that I care about this, or maybe it is just a profit thing. Like, I'm buying this now, it'll be worth more later. But there's a similar psychology there. There's some kind of underlying mechanics that are different, of course. NFTs are distinct in that each one, even if it's the same image, is different than another, whereas stocks are not. Your Apple stock is the same as my Apple stock. So there's some fundamental kind of underlying differences, but the type of person, the type of user, it's exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. And I know you talked a little bit about it, but what do you kind of see as like the future of what you're doing, and sort of along the backdrop of gambling and all that's happening with that and the daily fantasy? Where do you see kind of both of those things going in the future?
Yeah. I mean, it's only going to get bigger is the short of it. FanDuel, DraftKings really opened up that daily fantasy lane. Gambling itself, which, I mean, they opened it up as distinct from gambling. Now gambling itself is becoming a huge lane. I saw New Jersey just surpassed $1 billion in bets for the month of September, which was a new national record. So it's only getting bigger. It's only opening up in more states. For us, we see ourselves as in some ways riding that wave of people wanting to put money into sports, which previously was just kind of a fantasy team thing, or eventually a daily fantasy thing. So we will ride that wave, but there's a lot of people who don't feel comfortable betting. People who think it's too risky, don't feel like they know quite enough to be able to say, okay, I think the Cowboys are going to win by 3, or maybe it's 3.5. Like, there's a lot of people who aren't there yet. So we want to open up something for whatever kind of fan you are. Are you the fan who wants to trade every day, trade on every random player? Or are you the fan who just wants to buy that LeBron stock? or that Lance
yeah.
Armstrong stock.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, like with stocks, there's speculation, but the game ends, you've still got the share of stock. Your timeline is much more your own timeline. You miss bet, or you place a bet on a line, you miss it. That's it. It's done. You're holding nothing. Whereas this, if LeBron doesn't do well that night, you can hold it, and see how he does the next night or the next, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly how we want users to see it.
Yeah. So do you have a sports background, or how did you come to kind of dive into this?
I wouldn't say anything extensive. Played sports in high school. I'm still active now. I play sports. Definitely been a fan of multiple sports, just watching sports play. I think that's a generic American experience, right? A lot of people will watch sports, played sports,
exactly,
played club in college, stuff like that. I did end up working for Nike. I was doing cybersecurity though, so I was not signing LeBron's checks. Don't worry. I did a consulting project with the NBA as well, but that was kind of a shorter term project while I was in college. So nothing crazy deep. I'm not a sports industry super insider expert, anything like that. I think that's turned into an advantage. It's like, how do you just build something for a fan? Right. Oh, yeah. And that's how I came out. I'm a fan. I'm a bigger fan of different players, different teams, different sports, but at the end of the day, we're all kind of just fans. It's like, how do you build something all the way from there's this man or woman in my life who won't shut up about this athlete, and I just keep hearing about them, like, maybe let me just invest in them because they must be the greatest thing, all the way to like, I can tell you every single snap Troy Aikman took in the 96 Super Bowl. It's this ridiculous spectrum, and that's what we're trying to build for.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And sometimes when like with business, you approach something that's, just you want it, you and your friends want it, you build it, and then, it's really organic, and there's something that, everybody wants. And, I know I've said that to, my friends, and people are like, oh, I wish I could just, buy a piece of that, or, whatever. And you're a fan. What it's a little bit like is the Green Bay Packers. You've got this, you can buy the stock. You really, it's a stock. It's not quite a stock. You can't throw out the, president, but you like, as a fan, you get to say, hey, I own this piece of, this fantastic Green Bay Packers team, with a huge history and all of that kind of stuff. And same thing, you can range from like the person that, knows the entire history to somebody that's just been, gifted it, or, their father went to a game, or something like that.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is, right? What does it mean to you? And it can mean different things to everyone. And that's what we want to give people. Like, is this just is this your favorite player to super emotional connection? You kind of just ride with that person for whatever. Or is this like, I bought stock in that player on draft day. I'm telling you, they're going to blow up. None of you are listening to me. In 5 years, I'm going to show you. Right. And it's like, what is it to you? And that's what we want to give fans, because sports are so much, as much as it is about coming together, there's an individual experience you have. Like, maybe you're a super fan of like the Knicks, right? 82 games a season. You can't miss a game, even if that means just sitting at home alone. That means missing plans, missing a gym session, whatever it is. You have that all the way to like, all right, me and the guys would get together every Sunday. This is what we do, right? What is it for you? And that's what we want. Just let us be part of your sports experience. We're not trying to make you do something different than you're already doing. We want to just add to what you do.
Yeah. Now, are these shares that you can gift to people?
Not yet.
I think that would be a pretty cool,
right?
Christmas gift. You get some, shares of an athlete, or.
Exactly. That's definitely something that's come up. There's going to be a lot of fun things in the pipeline, like even just social features. Like right now, you can't say who shares I have, who are players I have shares of. That's something we want to unlock. Like, see who your friends are investing in. Start bragging to your friends if you're right and they're not. Like, we want this again to just reflect, what do people actually do? And gifting is part of that. People gift they're, especially for whatever reason, that was the super dad gift growing up. You get your dad something for like his favorite sports team.
Oh yeah.
What if you could do that? That'd be great.
Oh yeah. So how do people use it? Like where do they go? Is it an app? How do they get to it, and what's that sort of user experience like?
So we have an app as well as a website. We just relaunched our app, which we're really excited about. We launched that for NFL season. The new website's on the way in the order of weeks. So also really excited about that. But yeah, predictionstrike.com, prediction strike in the app store. That's where we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so do you have every athlete on there, or do you add them? Do you start with kind of the stars and you add from there?
We add them, I guess, kind of in large batches in many ways. So when we say we're going to do a sport, we say, okay, let's define who we're going to do for that sport. So football and basketball, it's kind of the fantasy eligible players.
Okay.
So we add them in mass, and then we periodically add new players, because of course people get signed and, picked up off the couch, whatever it might be. And then we do rookie IPOs as like one event. So those will get added together. Yeah. Make that a big thing. For basketball, it's everyone, because they're all fantasy eligible. For MMA, which we're starting with UFC. So we're adding all the fighters, and we're making sure we just keep up with kind of who's going to be fighting on future cards. But we try and add most athletes, I guess that's a roundabout way of saying. It isn't just the top 10 or, the top 2 on each team. It's really want you to be able to pick whoever it is.
And what happens when they stop playing? Does the stock just stay where it was, or does it go to their like legacy or something, or how does that work?
Yeah, we let the market decide. So the shares still exist. And then now if users want to keep holding on to those shares, so it might be, this is my favorite player, I'm going to hold on to them, or I can't believe that guy retired, I have so many memories, I need to go buy stock. There's a lot of that. Or depending on who it is, users might sell off. If it's someone who maybe didn't make the biggest game impact, or just wasn't that popular, users will sell those shares.
Yeah, that's interesting. You would almost think like the biggest players, when they retire, from retirement on, is going to be their most of the appreciation.
I can't even imagine I'm trying to think who's on their way out ish. To the extent that Tom Brady and LeBron James are on their way out, that's going to be crazy. It's everyone that's just already 20 years of memories for both of them. And what they've done for both their cities has been like nothing we've ever seen before. So I could see that for sure.
So people should log in, buy now.
Yeah, pretty much. And they're both, we'll see how LeBron does, I guess. Lakers tonight, maybe Lakers are tonight or tomorrow. But Tom Brady is killing it right there.
Yeah.
Like killing it. So these guys are still operating on the highest level.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, is there anything you want to add or throw out before we finish this up?
Yeah, first of all, just make sure you guys sign up. Love to have you. The more, the more users we have, the more fun it is. We're all a big community. And make sure you just find us on social. We're on Instagram, Twitter. Almost forgot to promote the promo code. So if you sign up with promo code ArtGibbs, you'll get a free share when you deposit $20 or more. So make sure you do that.
Awesome. Okay. So promo code ArtGibbs, Precision Strike. There's the app, the website, and that's where they can go.
That's where they can go. Find us. Tweet at us, DM us. Just let us know you're there.
Awesome. Well, Devin, I really appreciate this. I think this is an awesome product, and I think it's something that I'm sure many people have talked about with their buddies or whatever, and like wishing they could buy a share of a player, and now they can. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us.
No, Curtis, thank you so much. This has been great. Love just talking to you, and just any way to get the message out, just get more people on board, and stuff like this is always fun.
Awesome.